I saw my future wife on campus and I didn't even know it. But just remember like seeing her eyes and be like, wow, just really, it's kind of hard not to be.
Not to be what?
I mean, no, I'm saying, I was smitten.
I didn't think so.
But again, we definitely were in two totally different worlds.
Yeah. There was this panel for LGBT, like emerging leaders. And you see this tall, slim, fabulous chocolate human being with long flowing hair on a panel of people that don't look anything like her. Because in financial services and Wall Street, one, it's rare to see people of color or Black people. And two, it's rare to see a person of color who is also LGBT. She kills the panel. Fast forward to the end of the conference, they have these networking receptions. And I was there with a colleague who was actually a mutual friend. And he said, I just want you to meet Linnea. And I was like, that's great. But we've been at this conference all day. People have crowded her. Oh, you were so great. You're so great. And I'm like, yeah, you were so great. It's lovely to meet you. And so he says, our friend Sunil, he says, I'll put together dinner with the three of us. We'll make it happen. I'm like, yeah, totally. I was hanging out with a girlfriend of mine and we went to the Roosevelt hotel in Hollywood. And I think we were just hanging out, I was single and had gone through different, relationships. And
I was really newly single.
He was newly single, so I found out later. And she was texting with him and I guess he was in the area and she goes, oh, CJ's gonna come over, and hang out with us. I was like, okay, that's cool. So this was actually the first time we really kind of hung together. It was just the four of us, him and he brought a friend. And at the end of the night, her and I get in the car and she said—
Well, when she went to the bathroom, our friend Kelly was she's like, you need to holler at Ro. And I was like, make it happen.
And so my thing was, I knew if I could get her around me in my area, my space, and see me regulate, put that over there, do this. I'm a boss, you know what I'm saying? Let me sign this.
But how he did it was, he said, you have a assist? And I said, no, not really. I have my own clients. But, his industry was not my industry, part of styling. So I was like, I'd love to learn the music end of it a little bit. So if you need extra hands, totally, I'm game for it. And he was like, great. He goes, sometimes I go to Saint-Tropez and this. So we started throwing out all of these places that he's going and all these people that he worked with, I guess, trying to impress me, which I was totally impressed, I do have to say.
Yeah, of course. and it's funny because, it took about a month to have this dinner, to schedule this dinner. Our buddy Cornelius hadn't arrived yet. Sit at the bar and I looked to my left and obviously there's a beautiful woman sitting there. I was like, is that the same woman from the conference? I was like, oh, okay. She's cute. So we ended up closing down the restaurant that night. Several bottles of wine.
We hear a little bit about our history, our past stories. And, Linnea had been in a very long-term relationship and that was coming to an end. And so when we met and realized that, okay, clearly that cab ride home, it was very obvious, there's clearly an attraction here. What are we gonna do about that? Because I know that you're still figuring the situation out. So when we did start dating, it was, she was very respectful and she made it very clear. I said, well, just get your house in order.
I didn't even. What? He moved into my apartment building, and he was getting on the elevator and I was getting off the elevator. And we knew of each other, but we didn't know each other. And his cousin was with him, Ed. At the time, and Ed used to be on Motown when I was on Motown Records. So I saw them, and I was on my way to Lauryn Hill's concert. And I said, Flex, you live here? He said, I'm moving my stuff in today. He said, let me get your number. I said, okay, let me go get a pen. I went upstairs to get a pen.
She was gone for 40 minutes. I was like, man, I ain't waiting for her.
To come back downstairs because my cousin was running late and she was supposed to go to the concert with me. So anyway, by the time I got downstairs, he was gone. And then 2 weeks later, we ran into each other again by the elevator. And he said, okay, I'm not going to let you leave without getting your number. But the crazy thing is, we weren't trying to talk to
Yeah, it wasn't even let me get you, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Because I had gotten out of a relationship and I was I was like, I want to know who I am. I didn't want to be with anybody.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at all.
At all.
At that moment, I was like, I'm good. For the first time, it's crazy because my whole life I always felt like I had to be in a relationship, you know? And before I met him, I was at peace.
I needed to relocate back to New York to be closer to my son, who was getting ready to start high school. He was going into 8th grade. So I just felt like it wasn't the right time for me to be in Los Angeles. She was often in New York. But, you know, I guess we went on a couple of dates in New York, and I just wasn't ready for a long distance relationship. I just wasn't ready for a committed relationship at that time.
He was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out a lot of times. He was also very, he wasn't done being a boy either. So he needed to get that out of his system a little bit. And, you know, he would just call me and say, I don't think this is working. I don't think I can do this. And I'd be like, what? Really? We're doing this again? We're doing this again. Okay.
I hadn't planned on getting in a relationship at all. Like the thought was, I'm just gonna save a boatload of money, hang out with a bunch of girls, you know, and just be single. That was the plan, you know. And you know, she comes along, and I realize this is something that I want to last for a very long time.
It was the first time I'd had a friendship first with a woman. I had never had friendships. It was just like you hook up and that's it. But it was the first time, like, I mean, I cried on her shoulders when I lost my grandmother, and because I had just lost my grandmother.
Yeah.
And
that's the first time a man ever cried on my shoulder.
And it was just like, so I did that, and I was just like, wow. Like, I just let myself go. I just felt like I could be me.
I called him and said, I'm going to LA for the summer. I'm getting into a car, I'm driving across country, just letting you know I'll be gone for 3 months. And that was that. And he was obviously like a little taken aback. And then after 3 months, I decided to stay. And I think he checked up on me, or somehow we had spoken. And I said, oh, well, I'm staying in LA, I'm moving.
We had been talking every day. And I just was like, I went to her rehearsal, and I said, you know what? I said, you're always talking about, you know, you're praying for your soulmate. I said, but your soulmate can be staring right in the face.
And then you walked away.
Walk away.
It was like a scene in the movie.
It was almost like, are you gonna let my hand fall off?
And then that's when it really hit me. I said, wait a minute. I think he might be the one.
A lot of experiences with my son, you know, allowed me to grow as a man and take more responsibility in life, which I hadn't previously done. When I got to that place, I was like, Rochelle.
So the turning point for me was basically, it was a dream, but more like a nightmare. I had a dream where I saw Miriam walking down Fifth Avenue. She had a ton of bags. And she came out the store, and she saw me, and we were excited to see each other. What's new? How you been? Oh my God, you look great. Give me a hug, yada, yada, yada. So while we're talking, Bradley Cooper walks out of the store and grabs her and gives her a kiss on the cheek and say, hey, what's going on, babe? And he's like, oh, this is a really good friend of mine, O'Neal. We used to be really good friends. And Bradley Cooper is like, oh, nice to meet you. I'm Bradley Cooper. And I'm like, I know who you are. You're a movie star. You're Bradley Cooper. I woke up in a cold sweat. My pillow was wet. I was wet. The curtains was wet. I don't know if it's like I had on a humidifier or something. I sat up in the bed. I was like, I got to figure this out. There's no way I'm going to let her be in Hollywood and marry Bradley Cooper. I can't even deal with it. I can't even think straight. I'm glad that I'm here now, but it took me a while to realize that, you know, at the end of the day, you can have, you know, mild success doing something or have a lot of success, but at the end of the day, this was the foundation. This was the thing that I needed most in my life to keep my sanity and my joy intact.
I was so confident, you know, that this was the woman that I was gonna spend my life with, that there wasn't a nervous bone in my body about like, she might say no. You know, it was like I said, it was seamless. I don't know.